What up, everybody? A good morning and a happy Tuesday to you all. DK Show coming to you from the TDS Sports Talk studios this morning. A big thanks for making us a part of your starts, and hopefully you're staying warm and will stay warm throughout the day. As always, don't forget to check out the latest school closings and delays up at our website, sportstalk1051.com, because the list is massive over there. So check it out if you haven't done so already. It's the WEAU 13 News First Alert School Closings, brought to you by Hovland's and Service Master. But if you are up and at it, whether you're tuning in on the radio dials, two of those, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, online, stream it up at sportstalk1051.com, or the video streams. Got the app as well. However you're tuning in, we appreciate it here this morning. What do we got on a good old game plan for us? What are we gonna hit up? Well, we're gonna talk some Badgers with Mr. Cardinal, RJ Cardinal. That'll be coming up a couple hours from now, about 8:20 this morning. The Badger basketball team moving up to number 11 in the latest AP poll rankings, which makes them the highest ranked Big Ten team in the top 25. It's close. I mean, there's teams right next to them and right behind them. But as of right now, the Badgers are the top-ranked Big Ten team. You got Wisconsin at 11, Big Ten Conference leading Michigan at 12, Purdue at 13, Michigan State at 14. So 11 through 14, all Big Ten. Then you got Marquette that also moved up a couple spots to number 16. But then you got Maryland coming in at 20, another Big Ten team listed on there. So, but none of the pack, the new Big Ten teams, like from the Pac-12 over there. UCLA did get some votes. Illinois did get some votes too. And, well, Badgers will be playing Illinois tonight and trying to exercise maybe some of those demons too, going up against Illinois over the last few years. It's been Illinois' number. So, but again, we'll talk some Badgers with RJ Cardinal, not only just Badger basketball and, kind of putting a bow on the Badger hockey regular season and looking towards the postseason and such, but Badger football getting a new general manager, which is still kind of weird to say, but Marcus Sedberry is getting promoted to general manager for Badger football. So we'll talk about that with RJ coming up in about a little over 2 hours from now. Also on the docket, we'll talk some Brewers getting set for the first spring training game this Saturday. But I want to talk a little bit about Nestor Cortes, the new starting pitcher for the Brewers, because I mean we've talked about a lot of different players for this Brewers team as we get set. Not only for spring training, but for opening day, which is coming next month. Kind of a little pseudo countdown, if you will. So we've talked about a lot of different players, and for various reasons, whether they could be wild cards, whether they could have breakout years, or who was under the most pressure. And one guy we haven't really spent a whole lot of time talking about is Nestor Cortes, who was a part of the return package for Devin Williams. And Nestor Cortes, starting pitcher for the Crew, spent last year with the Yankees. So I feel like maybe we need to chat a little bit about the left-hander here, because, again, we haven't talked a whole lot about him, and just maybe how important he is for this team, how valuable he is for this Brewers team. You kind of look at, their starting rotation right now. I mean, if we do factor in Woodruff, you got Freddie Peralta, you've got Nestor Cortes, Aaron Savali. It's a fairly heavy veteran starting rotation, and throw in Tobias Myers, who had his breakout year last year. So, for all the talk about youth and for this team and developing and such, but you look at their starting rotation right now, it's pretty veteran savvy right now, veteran heavy with the top 5. So, but I want to talk a little bit about Cortes and such coming up here. I got to talk a little green and gold, and I'm sure by now because it was a couple days ago, and Rob Domofsky had it in his notes on ESPN.com in one of his latest pieces. But now it's kind of starting to trend a little bit out there. But the whole Jaire Alexander chats saying Rob reporting that there's a strong indication that Jaire Alexander will not be back in Green Bay, which probably isn't too big of a surprise for anybody to hear that. I think a lot of us kind of thought that was trending that way, especially after the season and locker clean out when Jaire refused to talk and said he didn't have anything good to say anyways. So cap hit, contract wise, it feels like the writing is on the wall here. And so one note on Rob's little piece though too, and it was the piece that he talks about the free agents. Will Packers keep free agents Jaire Alexander, Brandon McManus? And he kind of broke down the players to kind of keep, to re-sign maybe on cheap deals, and kind of moving on and such. And when he talked a little bit about Jaire, I thought it was an interesting little nugget about perhaps one of the biggest reasons, and it makes sense. I think every fan has probably talked about it, but said the Packers essentially were frustrated that, maybe not playing through some of his injuries. Says here, quote, there are strong indications that Alexander's time with the Packers will end without him playing another down. Multiple team sources have privately expressed their frustration with Alexander's inability to stay healthy and or play through injuries. So I don't know if last year with the whole knee thing, if that was kind of the icing on the cake. Did the Packers feel like that he could play and Jaire didn't feel like he could play or didn't want to play? Was there some miscommunication between the two sides in that? I don't want to speculate with that, but because he did have knee surgery afterwards, so it was still weird, right? I mean, it was still weird how that whole thing kind of transpired and such. So, but where I'm going with this, the question that I want to throw to you, Packers fans, is, okay, let's say Packers do move on from Jaire, which I think if we did a whole, odds thing of that happening, I think a lot of us would be probably pretty high on that spectrum, thinking, yeah, it would. But if it is Keyshawn and Carrington as your top two corners, and then you throw in Javon Bullard as the nickel corner there, how confident are you in that group? I mean, I think we would all agree that they're probably going to address another corner in a draft. How early may depend on how the board falls. But if that's your top three on opening day in September, how confident are you? You think that's a job that could get done? Maybe you are of the mindset, hey, if they improve their pass rush, then yes, that's A-okay with me. That's a good enough trio. I'm calling it the trio because of nickel defenses are pretty much base defense now in the NFL. So we'll talk a little bit about that coming up here this morning as well. But I feel like the last couple of years of Jaire's tenure with Green Bay, something was amiss. You go back to the season prior, getting suspended and all that. It feels like there was something amiss and such. And I don't know. I'm not going to point fingers to either side and that, but it stinks because I like Jaire as a player. And in fact, even though he missed all that time this past year, he still finished second on the team in pass breakups and tied for second in interceptions. I mean, nobody was catching Xavier McKinney, but I mean, that still tells you, when Jaire is healthy, he's still a pretty dang good corner and one of the better ones in the league. So, but today too is I don't think Green Bay has anything. They're probably not going to do this, but today teams can start placing franchise tags on players and that. And for any Packers fan that is hoping for T. Higgins, you might want to lower those expectations there, because there are reports out there saying that the Bengals have intentions to re-signing him and possibly even putting the franchise tag on him again. So if you were a part of the T. Higgins movement, who's your option 2 or plan B at that point? So, yeah, starting today through March 4th, teams can designate franchise or transition players. So we'll talk a little football coming up here. Still dealing with the NBA All-Star break before the Bucks are back in action coming up on Thursday. And then Friday, it's going to be a back-to-back. So Thursday's Clippers. Friday is going to be up against the Wizards and former buddy Chris Middleton. But today is also a Grind My Gears Tuesday, and ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what is grinding your gears? What's grinding your gears? Get it off your chest, all right? Share with the rest of the class. Hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912, or you can chime in on the video streams if you'd rather do that. So, all right, let's get things rolling here this morning, shall we? And what else is on your mind? You can hit us up, hit me up with what else is on your mind here this morning. Yeah, text it or comment on the video streams, that sort of thing. But let's get things going here this morning. Plenty to catch up on and hit up. We're going to talk some hoops with the Badgers. Going to talk a little baseball with Nestor Cortes and talk a little green and gold with the whole, Jaire situation, which, again, I don't think it's that big of a newsworthy thing. It's maybe just kind of solidifying a lot of things that I think us Packers fans have kind of expected to come down the wire. So, all right, we'll take our first break and then get the leadoff going here this morning. Stay warm, peeps. Grab some coffee and such. If you got to be outside today, you got to work outside. Be safe, okay? All right, quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Get a reminder, if you're just maybe getting up and at it and you got some kiddos and such, you should check out whether they got school or not. It's a massive list. Head to our website, sportstalk1051.com, and click on the WEAU 13 News. Apologies, I think I got a little cold going on here. First alert school closings brought to you by Service Master and Hovland. So it is a very, very, very big list over there. So double check if you haven't done so out there yet. But if you have to be outside today, whether it's for work or whatever, be safe out there. Dress warm, as G-Man chimed in a little bit earlier. DK Bucky's on a roll. Bucky will win tonight 75-68. And what's grinding my gears is this weather we are having now stay warm. Let's begin this morning. I want to let's talk a little baseball to open it up a little bit here, and then we'll get to some football stuff here. So, but obviously, we're getting close to the first spring training game, which is this Saturday. And you'll be able to check it out, listen to it on the radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. But first broadcast begins at 2. First pitch is around 2:10 this Saturday. So put it on your calendars, put it in your phones. But we've talked a lot about different players kind of in a pseudo countdown preview to the upcoming season. We've talked about, wild card players, guys who are, maybe question marks, or who's got to have, breakout years, or, maybe a hidden gem, or they gotta, are in a prove it year sort of thing. So we've talked about different players for different reasons and various reasons. But one player that hasn't really been brought up with all of our different, questions and topics that we've thrown out there has been Nestor Cortes, new starting pitcher for the Brewers, who came over as part of the Devin Williams trade package. And, you got Durbin over there, who has gotten a little bit more talk because is he the guy that's going to play third? Could he play second? And then Terang moves over to shortstop. Young guy. As soon as that trade was official, you had Pat Murphy comments talking about him and how much he really loves, Durbin and such. And we never really talked about, or there really wasn't a whole lot of talk about Nestor Cortes, who is a veteran and has pitched and started, a good amount of games over the years. In fact, was an all-star from a couple of years ago with the Yankees and such. But I feel like he's a guy that is going to be really interesting to watch this year. And the Milwaukee Journal said a couple days ago, Todd Rosiak has a good piece about Nestor Cortes up. And, Cortes, let's face it too, he's moving from the Yankees to the Brewers. He is moving from a team that went to the World Series last year to the Brewers. I don't know his feelings on that, but I got to imagine for a lot of people, like even for us, if we were put in that situation, we're like, man, I went to a team that was just in the World Series and a team that's going to compete for a World Series again to the Brewers. But for his, he was been very professional. He said, quote, "It comes down to winning ball games, going through the minor leagues in my big league career. That's how I've carried myself. I just want to win no matter how it's done." Pat Murphy saying about Cortes, that speaks to who he is. I think that's why he's in a trade like that. When you're talking Devin Williams, obviously reliever of the year 2 times, I think it speaks volumes that the guy you get is Nestor Cortes. It means that you believe in him as a huge, huge value to your team. We couldn't be more excited. So Cortes, left-handed pitcher, when you look at his numbers throughout his career, first of all, he's projected, if you're looking at projections, kind of some similar numbers to last year when he was with the Yankees. Last year with the Yankees, he was 9-10 with a 3.77 ERA, 31 games pitched, 30 of those started. By the way, last year, the most games he started in his career in a single season with that 30 previous high was 2022 when he was an all-star, and he had 28 starts there. But you look at various projections, it's very similar. Baseball Reference, for example, has 9-8 win-loss record, and his ERA at a 3.76. So you're talking about a guy, maybe kind of hovering around, if you're looking at wins and losses, maybe around 500 and such. But this is a guy who got started off with Baltimore back in 2018, pitched in 4 games. First stint with the Yankees was in 2019, pitched in 33, coming in more so for relief. Started just 1 game that season. 2020 went over to Seattle, played in just 5 games, then back with the Yankees in 2021, where he went 2-3 with a 2.90 ERA in 22 games pitched. 14 of those were starts. And then the 2022 season, when he was an all-star, he was 12-4 with a 2.44 ERA. And then 2023, just 5-2 record in just 12 games started, 4.97 ERA though. So when you look at this starting rotation with Cortes in it, now first of all, I think let me go back a little bit to what I said. Cortes is an interesting player for me because I feel like Cortes is a guy that is in a unique situation with the Brewers, because let's say the Brewers aren't having the greatest season and you get to that trade deadline. He just seems like, and let's say Cortes is having a fairly good year, solid year. I feel like Cortes is that guy that could easily be a target for teams looking for starting pitching, playoff teams looking for starting pitching at the trade deadline, if the Brewers are kind of out of it at that point, because he is an unrestricted free agent in 2026. So I personally feel like this is a one-and-done situation for Nestor Cortes in Milwaukee, regardless of how well the Brewers do this year. I just feel like it's, all right, he's going to pitch this year, maybe a half a season, depending on how the Brewers do. But I feel like it's a one-and-done situation. And, again, if the Brewers are not performing that well, and they become a team where it's kind of a sell situation, Nestor Cortes seems to be the perfect player to go sell. But he's also, I think, a player that can help this team this year get back to the postseason, because you look at that starting rotation and you've got some veterans mixed in there. Nestor, Freddie Peralta, Aaron Savale, Brandon Woodruff, if we count Brandon Woodruff as part of that, which Pat Murphy's counting him as part of that. I mean, those are guys that have pitched in this league for the last few years here now and got quite a bit of experience under the belt. And then you throw in Tobias Myers as your other starter. So is it fair to say, when we look at some of the positives and maybe some of the strengths of this team, is it fair to say that one of the strengths of this team is starting staff? No, they don't have a legit number one top tier ace, that number one guy. They don't have a Corbin Burns or a Chris Sale or one of those guys. They don't have that horse at the front of the rotation. So for maybe some fans to be like, can't say they're a strength because they don't have that full-on number one guy that when it's their time in the rotation, you're feeling pretty darn confident. Game in, game out, you're going to come away with a W, or at least that pitcher is going to put their team in a position to come away with a W. But when you talk about the depth, the overall depth of the starting rotation, and we kind of rank them with other position groups on this Brewers team, I feel like it would be towards the top and towards a strength for the Brewers, because you've got experienced guys and guys who have pitched in playoff games, guys who have pitched, in some big moments or some big games. And for all the talk about, Brewers, youth movements, a lot of younger guys and that, and it's right. I mean, when you look at a lot of the position players, with a Jackson Cheerio, Sal Frelick, a Garrett Mitchell, Bryce Terang, a Joey Ortiz, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, you got some youth movement. Of course, you got some veterans mixed in with a Yelly and with a Reese. Contreras is still young, but a veteran that's played a lot. But the starting pitching staff definitely has arms that have logged some innings over the years. And if they can stay healthy, that's going to be the big question mark, right? Can that group stay healthy? Can that starting staff stay healthy? So I'm intrigued with this group because I feel like it's more experience that they have in this group than they've had in maybe a little bit while from the top to the bottom. I mean, they've had guys where, maybe a couple of those guys in that starting rotation have been around for a few years, and they maybe kind of fill it in with guys that haven't logged a lot of innings and such. But when you look at starters for this year for the Brewers, you can't really say that. Because if we look at, for one, Freddie last year, over 200 innings? He, 173 innings, close to 200 innings. He had 200 strikeouts. That's where I was at there. 173, a little over 173 innings pitched for Freddie Peralta last year, 32 games. Nestor Cortes last year, 174 innings pitched. You want to throw Tobias Myers into this? 138 innings pitched. Aaron Savali last year, 161 innings pitched. That's every starter with at least over 135 innings last year. You got experience with that group. So definitely curious, intrigued to see if that's going to be a big boost, if that's going to be a big strength for this Brewers team. But again, back to Cortes here. I think he's in a unique situation where if the Brewers are competing, if they're competing for a World Series, well, then you've got, a veteran or a playoff spot, excuse me. You've got that veteran already in your starting rotation. If everybody stayed healthy, well, maybe the Brewers won't be in a position like they were last year at the trade deadline, trying to find some veteran starting pitching. And a lot of that boiled down to because they had injuries at that position. Brandon Woodruff didn't play at all. Wade Miley got hurt. Then Robert Gasser got hurt. So, I mean, they were, before that trade deadline, trying to get some guys. They tried Dallas Keuchel. Remember that experiment? Then they acquired Frankie Montas, Aaron Savali. But if these veterans can stay healthy and be contributors, then, if the Brewers are in a position where they're competing for a playoff spot, maybe that's not an area of need, and maybe they can go and try to find other positions that could boost them and carry them to the playoffs. But Cortes, I think, again, is in that spot where, yeah, he could be helping a team make a run in the playoffs, to the playoffs and into playoffs. But if this Brewers team doesn't perform that well, they don't, and they're not playing well, and it's kind of obvious that they're not going to be competing for a playoff spot this year, he sure seems like a very likely top of the line trade candidate before the deadline, trading him to a contending team, and then Brewers will probably get a prospect in return. Regardless, I think it's a one and done shot for Cortes, unless he absolutely loves Milwaukee and Milwaukee loves him, and he has a solid year but doesn't break the bank, I guess. But right now, I still feel like it's just kind of a one and done shot for Cortes. All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll talk some. We got some football talk coming up in the next hour, so we'll talk some hoops coming up here in just a little bit. Stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Looking for fresh, affordable, and convenient? You'll find it all at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. From fresh produce to top quality meats and everything in between, they make shopping easy. Need a quick dinner solution? Well, check out their delicious grab and go meals. Are you hosting a get together? Hey, their bakery and deli have you covered. Plus, with weekly deals and friendly service, there's always more to love. And don't forget about their fuel savers that could help you save at the gas pump. Shop smart, shop Hy-Vee. And also grab some Man Cave Lights, some Dan Good Burgers over at Hy-Vee too. So about what 16 minutes to the top of the hour here. Got a couple texts to catch up on as we were talking. Spent the first portion talking some Brewers and Nestor Cortes and that. Ben says, do think one of the strengths of this team is the Brewers starting pitching because of the veterans that they have. The big question will be is whether they can all stay healthy and play the majority part of the season. Excuse me. Travis texting in saying, I agree that I think if we had to rank the strengths of the Brewers team, starting pitching would be up there just because of the veterans that they have. Because of the veterans that they have on the squad. Another texter here says, don't know a whole lot about Nestor Cortes, but there's no question this team feels like they've got a little bit more veteran starting pitching than they've had for the last few years. Maybe that's something that can help get them back to the postseason instead of relying on the offense a little bit more. And then we got one more message that came through a little bit earlier, saying, I remember watching Nestor Cortes a couple games for the Yankees last year and thought he was a pretty solid pitcher. Hope everybody doesn't just look at win-loss records and come up with a scouting report for that player. He's a solid pitcher, middle of the order type of pitcher, and I think he's going to be a good fit for the Brewers this year. Excited to see this veteran group. And then another texter saying, the staff doesn't have a legit number one, a lot of 2s and 3s. So I still feel like if the Brewers are in it for a playoff chase, that they could potentially try to trade for a true number one by the deadline. That is from Steve on our texting line. So yeah, go ahead, keep sending us some messages, whether it's on the texting line or hitting us up on the video streams or hitting us up on social media. So we'll talk some Green and Gold coming up in the next hour. Want to finish up talking some hoops. Badger basketball. So we were talking about them yesterday and kind of wondering, all right, how high were they going to jump up in the AP polls? Well, now we know they've moved up 5 spots, just outside the top 10, kind of where I thought they'd be at, but number 11. But they're also the highest ranked Big Ten team, but not by much because Michigan's 12, Purdue's 13, and Michigan State coming in at 14. Then Maryland's over there at 20. So Maryland moving up 5 spots as well. And you look at, I mean, the win, if we just looked at win-loss records in the Big Ten and not necessarily just the conference records, like we know the conference race is already close. Michigan's at the top with the 12-2 conference record. Michigan State's a game back. Purdue's 1.5 back. Wisconsin's 2 back. Maryland and UCLA are 2.5 back. But if you just did it overall record, I mean, that's crazy. Michigan's 20-5. Michigan State's 20-5. Wisconsin's 20-5. Maryland's 20-6. So you got 3 teams right now in the Big Ten that have 20 wins. Then you got Purdue sitting there at 19. UCLA's at 19. It's tight. It's very tight. And Wisconsin looking to avenge a loss earlier in the season against Illinois at Illinois. And Wisconsin, over the last few years, Illinois has had their number. They've had their number. But the way Wisconsin's playing right now, could this finally be a time when Wisconsin picks up that W. They are favored by 4.5 tonight with the game at the Kohl Center. But still, I'm still nervous for this one. I mean, come on now. I'm still nervous about this. You got Illinois, a team that's averaging 84.3 points per game. They're fantastic on the boards. Steven Krall got to be aggressive on the boards in this game, dude. But Illinois is averaging 44.3 rebounds per game. That's like 9 more per game than what Wisconsin is averaging. Illinois also averaging 4.3 blocks per game. So gotta be tough down low. Gotta be tough down low. Gotta be aggressive on the boards. No second chance opportunities for Illinois tonight. Can't have it. Can't have it. I'm really curious though. So there's this freshman guard for Illinois. He's foreign Lithuania. So he's a Lithuania player. And we'll talk more about this with RJ coming up here. But I mean, he's their leading scorer this year. Kasparis averaging 16 points per game. We talk about guard play for the Badgers. So whether it's going to be Tanjay or Blackwell, that might be a matchup to pay attention to for tonight's game. But we talk about, Wisconsin being a team that is really kind of using Kirk Penny and his resources and trying to really maybe kind of tap into the overseas Europe area for some of these youngsters to fill out the roster. Illinois has been doing that too. Because then they've got their big man, Tomislav from Croatia, who's 7'1", and he's averaging almost 13 a game and 8.5 rebounds per game. So, I mean, Illinois has been doing what we've been kind of praising Wisconsin for doing, but Illinois has been doing it too. And these guys have been big-time contributors for this team. So, yeah, I'm nervous for it. I think Wisconsin should win the game tonight. I think they're, to me, you take away the names and you take away, recent matchups and such, and you just put the numbers and take away the jerseys and put like neutral stuff under. Wisconsin's the better team, in my opinion. They're the more talented team. But that doesn't always guarantee you wins, as we know, especially when it comes to sports. But I think it's going to be a tight one. I think it's going to be a close one. And I just want Wisconsin to really be aggressive on the boards and be aggressive down low. Steven Krall's got to have a game tonight. Once in a while, he'll have those games, and we're all like, where has that been? And I think that's got to be one of those tonight. When we look at the previous matchup, way earlier in the season, back in, was it December? An 86-80 loss for Wisconsin. And that's when Kasparis dropped 24 points, 8 of 15 from the field. Winter was the leading scorer for the Badgers in that game. And Steven Krall had 9 points, but this was the game that he had 0 rebounds. 0 rebounds. For a big man. That can't happen tonight. That cannot happen. Tanjay had 14. It was just 5 of 15 from the field that game. Blackwell, just 10 points. I mean, you had 4 Badgers in double-figure scoring, but it still wasn't enough. And you looked at, Trey White, too, for that game for Illinois against the Badgers. He went up and put 23 points up. So, 2 guards, I think Blackwell and Tanjay. Let's see it on the defensive side for these two. They're going to have their, potentially their hands full. So, but also I feel like, yeah. All right. I was just reading a text that we got in here. No, I might as well say. Texter, don't have a name, so can't give you any credits. I'm definitely nervous about tonight's game between Illinois and Wisconsin. Been watching more Badger basketball this year than I have maybe the last couple of years. They're definitely a fun team, but it's still, I feel like, an inexperienced group, even though Tanji's been a 5-year guy, inexperienced in terms of playing for Wisconsin. So I don't know if Wisconsin can, I don't know if I have the confidence in Wisconsin if they can pick up big time wins. I guess, well, I mean, they had a big time win against Purdue, though, right? I mean, is that still a narrative when it comes to Wisconsin about, can they win big time? That was a big time win against Purdue on the road, right? Maybe it's like, can you, I don't know, like put together back-to-back big time wins? But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like Wisconsin's already shown that they can have big time wins. I mean, earlier in the year, they beat Arizona. I know Arizona's kind of fallen down since then, but now they're back up there in rankings and such, but still, they've had some big time wins, I think, on their resume, haven't they? But yeah, if you want to say you're still nervous about the game, I'm still nervous about the game. Just because Illinois has had that number. But if Wisconsin can get this W and get their 21st win, you've got 5 more games left to go. 3 in a row, including tonight, are at the Kohl Center. Then you got that huge matchup with Michigan State on the road. Then at the Gophers, which should be a win. And then you finish up the regular season against Penn State, which is at the bottom of the conference. This is a huge stretch here for Wisconsin. I know Washington's like towards the bottom too. Oregon's in just a little bit behind Illinois. They're 7-8 in conference play. They've kind of fallen down after being in the rankings a couple weeks ago. But this is a chance, I think, for Wisconsin to, you pick up the win tonight. You pick up your wins at home, and you set up that matchup for Michigan State. I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but if you pick up that win against Michigan State and you do what you're supposed to do at the end of the season, gosh, could we be talking about Wisconsin maybe even moving up to a 2 seed at that point? I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think Wisconsin would always have to win out and then maybe not have an early exit in the Big Ten Conference tournament. But I know Frank Kaminsky's been saying on social media Greg Gard should be clear-cut front runner for Coach of the Year. Maybe a little homerism, but is he wrong? I don't think he's wrong. I think these voters who also do preseason predictions when they had Wisconsin at 12th in the conference, and here they are, the highest ranked team in the conference, and if they continue to finish this season strong on the same level, why wouldn't Greg Gard be a part of the conversation for Coach of the Year? He absolutely should be. Might not even win it. The other one, I mean, you look at what Michigan's doing too. I mean, Michigan's had quite the turnaround for this year after the whole Juwan Howard experiment. I mean, Dusty May's been doing a pretty darn good job at Michigan too, so he's got something to say. But Greg Gard definitely deserves to be in the conversation. I don't think he'd win it, but he definitely deserves to be in it. And if things finish off this way, he probably won't even win Big Ten Coach of the Year because Dusty May might too. So, all right, let's finish up second hour. Good morning, Morgs.
You're quite the fashionista. You have a vest over flannel today.
It's not fashionista. It's about staying warm.
It's functional.
Yeah.
I've totally crossed the line into function myself. Mm-hmm. Speaking of, did you happen to see the text I sent you?
No.
Check your phone. Have you seen these yet?
Yeah. Let me bring it up.
You're a guy of fashion.
Oh, I did not. Where's that?
Those are the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Puma shoes. Siggy's got the Scooby-Doos.
Oh, man.
So I thought maybe this would be next up for your wish list, or you or Hudsy want the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle one. She's been rocking the Scooby-Doos this basketball season and loving them.
I appreciate it's the old school Turtles, too, not the new school.
I know. I thought these might be right up your alley. So They might have to happen on your feet at some point or another.
Those are pretty sweet, I will
Now,
say.
do you think cartoons these days are worse than when we were young? Because it makes anybody sound old to be like, when I was young, I went to school when it was cold.
Well,
Uphill both ways.
you got kids watching kids on YouTube now over cartoons. Like Hudson's watching this stupid stuff on YouTube once in a while, like
Yes.
Kid City or Fun Squad and all that. It's these families doing stupid stuff. And it's
And
like,
Siggy was in this phase where she used to watch people game.
oh yeah.
Yeah, drives me bonkers. Or
Mhm.
unboxing was really popular a while ago, where they would just really, open
Yep.
things
Yeah,
live time.
that's big in like sports cards too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Mhm.
This sounds like tale as old as time. Every generation is scratching their head at what the, kids are
Mhm.
doing these days. But I really don't get that.
Yeah.
Like the watching other kids get stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch like a card one just to see because see if the guy's watching, pulls in like a I don't know a Babe Ruth whatever
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani sort of thing. But yeah, watching these families do like weird stuff, like just like what are we doing?
That's not my family.
No,
No. My
no,
parents were the get out of the house and don't come back till you're hungry
yeah,
family.
yeah,
Go find something to do.
yep.
If you were doing a sports card thing, because I know locally there's a good sports card scene. Is there one right now that you're holding out for that you would like to add to your collection?
No, because I'm struggling to think like if I even want to like start collecting somebody, I don't know who I would.
Okay, but do you remember back in the day when we had alternate card collecting, like Garbage Pail Kids and
Oh yeah,
that kind of thing?
no,
Is there anything like that for the new generation?
I don't. I mean, Pokemon's still out there,
Yeah,
but I don't
but
know.
nothing really niche and
No,
kitsch like
I
we
mean, I
used to do.
remember getting Batman cards and Ninja Turtle
Mhm.
cards and,
Mhm.
all that, so I don't know if they do any of
Now,
those.
if you could invent a new niche line of trading cards, what do you think would be a good idea?
Ooh.
Sports wise or otherwise? Like, are there golf trading cards? I don't
Yeah,
even know. Are there?
mhm.
Okay.
I got a Tiger rookie. Come on now.
Oh, geez. Sorry I asked.
Actually just got it, so there
Oh, it's fresh to the lineup.
Yeah, yep,
But
yep.
you could invent. What if we did like 90s pop stars, something like that?
Pop stars?
I don't think there's a pop stars collection of cards.
I don't know, maybe in some one of those teen magazines there might have been.
Where you could order the invisible dancing monkeys that everybody fell for a minute.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was a hard time to be a kid.
Second hour kicking off on this Tuesday morning of February 18th. A big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you're tuning in. If it's on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. You can also check us out online, stream it up at sportstalk1051.com. Got your Google and Alexa home devices, the app, download it, take it on the go. Going to talk some gritty goal football coming up here in just a little bit. Talk a little bit about the whole Jaire Alexander situation. We spent the first hour talking some Brewers, talking a little bit about Nestor Cortes and a veteran-led starting pitching group by the Brewers. We'll get back to maybe some more baseball talk coming up here. As again, reminder, we have our first spring training game on the docket, and you'll be able to hear it on the radio dials this weekend at 2:00. First pitch at 2:10. Coverage will begin at 2:00. We'll talk some more Badgers. We talked a little Badger hoops last hour, but we'll talk some more Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal a little over an hour from now. We'll talk some hoops with him, but also throw in some hockey talk and some Badger football talk. The Badgers have their new general manager promoting Marcus Sedberry to the position yesterday. So we'll get RJ's thoughts on that move. And again, just the state of college athletics and college sports. General managers are a thing, and they're a very important position right now with the whole NIL transfer portal and trying to get talent and such. And probably a very, very, very important position for the likes of Wisconsin football, because I think it's safe to say a lot of us Badger fans looking for some big time improvement from this program. It's also an ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what is grinding your gears? Get off your chest. You can let us know by hitting us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Hockey wise, I mean, we got a rematch between the USA and Canada for the championship for the Four Nations. That's going to be on Thursday, though, 7 p.m. So mark your calendars, put it on your notes. Canada and USA, we got a rematch between the two. Don't know if there'll be 3 fights within the first 9 seconds like it was before, but we can hope, right? We can hope at that point. Let's catch up on a couple of texts here this morning. And okay, that was kind of a weird one. Let's catch up on a couple of texts here this morning. We got Chris a little bit during the break. Chris saying about this Badger basketball team. Definitely excited about this team and their run towards the tournament. Going back to your question from last week, or yesterday, excuse me, I do think that they can be a Sweet 16 team. It's all going to be dependent on their seedings in the tournament, but they definitely have the talent to make a deep run. Another texter here. I was getting sidetracked because we had another text coming in, but looks like this is from Aaron. Aaron saying with Badger basketball, this is definitely a fun group to watch, but I can't fully get on board with them yet because I don't have the confidence in Stephen Krall. What is going on with that player? Why is he so inconsistent? And as a big, how can you go into a game and not finish a game with a single rebound like he did the first time they went up against Illinois? Keep your thoughts coming. What else is on your mind? You could let us know. Text us, tweet us, comment on the video stream, all that fun stuff. Badgers did move up to number 11 in the latest rankings. I forgot I didn't go through the top 10, but Auburn still at number 1. Florida moved up to number 2. You've got Duke, Alabama dropping a couple spots. Houston is your 5th ranked team, then Tennessee, Texas A&M, Iowa State moving up a couple spots, Texas Tech, and then St. John's. Then you got the run on the Big Ten teams with Wisconsin. So, all right, let's tell you what, let's take a quick break because I want to get into some Packer chat here this morning. I'll set it up, though, so you can start to hit me up with some texts here. So Rob Demovsky over the weekend in his free agency preview, kind of some offseason stuff, noted that it Jaire seems to be on the outs, which isn't a big surprise because I think a lot of us Packers fans kind of realized that. We knew it was the wall, it was written on the wall, right? I mean, it was there. I don't think that's a big surprise. But maybe it just kind of reinforces that notion that Jaire is going to be out. I mean, this is what Rob said in his piece. There are strong indications that Alexander's time with the Packers will end without him playing another down. Multiple team sources have privately expressed their frustration with Alexander's inability to stay healthy and or play through injuries. So the question I'm throwing out to you, Packers fans, is all right, let's say it's Keyshawn and Carrington and Bullard playing the slot. That's your top three. Well, we know they're probably, if Jaire is for sure on the outs, we know they're going to get another corner. But week one, that's probably going to be your top three. If we call that the base defense, a nickel base deep. Are you cool with that? Are you confident in that? Or maybe you're of the notion, I'd be a lot more confident if they upgrade that pass rush. So if there is no Jaire, do you think it's still that the biggest need is a pass rusher, is defensive line help? Or do you think if Jaire leaves, then it's automatically, it's got to be corner then? Hit me up. What do you think? All right. We'll take that quick break and we'll get going on this topic. I'm sure we'll have plenty of opinions on this. Hit me up. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. There's always something going on at the VFW Post 305 in Eau Claire, including some amazing daily specials. Mondays are soup flights and $1 all off all apps. But today's Tuesday, Dan. What are you talking about today? Tuesdays are made for tacos. So if you got a hankering for some tacos, you can head on over to the VFW Post 305 and load up. Those actually sound really good right now. Yesterday had to be really good for the soup flights over there with the cold temperatures and such. But also with the VFW Post 305, want to throw out a reminder. By the way, anybody participate in a cribbage tournament this past weekend at VFW Post 305? Anybody? Let me know how you did. But they always got events going on too, and a lot of creative ones over there, including the first indoor fishing contest Saturday, March 8th, 1 to 4 p.m. $10 entry fee includes one fish entry for every drink purchased. Top 3 in every category wins a prize. 6 fish prize categories. They'll also have a bucket of bobbers with some of the bobbers marked with winning dollar amounts. Buy a Twisted Tea or a Sun Cruiser to get a pick of the bobbers. So again, that's coming up on March 8th, 1 to 4 p.m. All right, so let's talk a little gritty gold. The whole Jaire Alexander situation. The whole Jaire Alexander situation with him, I think it's safe to say he's going to be on the outs, right? I think that was pretty. I think it was kind of the thought during the season towards the end, and then it really hit home after the season was over with, and you had the locker clean out and his comment saying, I have nothing good to say, don't want to talk, and that. But Rob Demovsky's piece, where it's and this is the thing that stood out to me, not the strong indications that Alexander's time with the Packers will end. The thing that kind of stood out to me was just that the multiple team sources have privately expressed their frustration with Alexander's inability to stay healthy and or play through injuries. It's that last one. Play through injuries. I don't know if it refers to the PCL injury that he suffered this past year. I don't know if that's the case because he did have surgery on it later. I don't know if there was just miscommunication back and forth. Who knows? And we may never know the true on answer. I'm sure maybe we'll hear one side of the story at certain points, kind of like what we hear with Za'Darius at times. But that was the one that kind of really stood out to me. So, okay, if Jaire does move on, or if the Packers, I should say, if the Packers do move on from Jaire Alexander, let's say, well, naturally, it would be Keyshawn and Carrington being your top 2 corners with Javon Bullard playing the nickel. Are you good with that? I think we could all assume that probably will get a corner in a draft, but the question is going to be how high? Do you use a first-round pick on him? Do you use a day 2 pick on him? This is where I don't like to get into mock drafts right now, because let's get through free agency, the first couple of waves of free agency. And because that really changes the outlook for some of the drafts and some of the mock drafts for some of these teams. Because let's say right now we did a mock draft for Green Bay and you have them getting a corner. But what happens if they go out there and sign a corner? Then it changes, right? It's kind of like last year. Maybe at the safety position. Maybe it's like, okay, they got Xavier. Maybe that pushes down the need a little bit more. To answer one question from a texter, it said, what is the cap hits for Jaire? So if the Packers moved on from Jaire, you're talking about a dead cap hit of $19 million. And I know 19 is a lot. His cap hit, though, if he's on the team, is about $25.5 million. So you're saving some money if you release Jaire Alexander. If you release him, you're saving some money. You're opening up a little bit this year. Now, the question would be, do you do it as a pre-June 1st or do you do it as a post-June 1st? And again, reminder, just a little background. If it's what's the significance of a post-June 1st decision? If you do post-June 1st, you can break up the salary cap hit for 2 years. Like you'll take on you'll take on a little bit of the dead cap hit this year, then you take on the rest of the dead cap hit the following year. Or the Packers may elect, hey, we've got some cap space this year. We got about 44.5, 45 million, depending on which source you look at. We'll take on the dead cap hit this year. Well, if they release him and they take on that full, it actually moves it up to about $50 million available in cap space. But if they did it for a post-June 1st, you'd have a little bit more cap space for this year. That's very similar to like Aaron Rodgers, for example, right now for the Jets. You see these guys, or you see these players. Not everybody does it this way, but the Jets are probably going to do it this way when they, for Aaron Rodgers, it'll be deemed as a post-June 1st release so they can break up that dead cap hit 2 years. Now, the thing is, when you see June 1st, when we say June 1st, it doesn't mean that the Packers can't release Jaire Alexander until after June 1st. They can release him before that, but designated as a post-June 1st. The difference being, so the player could go and then sign with a new team. The difference being that cap relief for the Packers wouldn't come until after June 1st. So that's the thing. That's the little note with it. So even though if you release a player right now, so if the Jets release Aaron Rodgers right now with a post-June 1st designation, the player is free to sign wherever. But that cap relief with that post-June 1st designation won't hit their books until after June 1st. And right now, Jaire's got the third highest cap hit on the team. So before we do, okay, so I can do this. We're going to assign a post-June 1st release. What would be the difference in cap space? So we said if they release him straight out and they take on all the hit, you're getting about $6 million relief. If you apply a post-June 1st, it'll only be an $8 million dead cap, as opposed to, the next year you make up the difference of that dead cap. The dead cap is 19, so this year it would only be $8 million for Jaire. Then you do the math; it's going to be about an $11 million cap hit for the following year. So hopefully that I explained it. I know we've done it various times, but hopefully that makes sense. But back to the question now. Would you feel confident? Would you feel good about Keyshawn and Carrington being your two outside corners to open up the season as starters? Because even if they draft a guy, I think it's probably safe to assume that they're not going to be a starter right away, whether you agree with that notion or not. I'm just going based off of the way Green Bay has historically done things. So then Bullard probably playing that nickel role. To me, I would feel a lot more confident if they upgraded their pass rush, if that's the way they go with their corners. If they do something in free agency, if they bring in a veteran, if they bring in a free agent to help improve the pass rush, I'd feel better. Now, we did see a lot this year with Keyshawn and Carrington on the outside. I mean, for crying out loud, Jaire missed a big chunk of the season. So we got a good sample size of this. But I also think it's fair to say that, okay, we still need some more depth over there. But I'd feel a whole lot better about that situation if we had more pass rushing help. If we had guys that are able to get after the quarterback by beating their one-on-ones and not having to bring extra blitzers and that sort of thing. Because we know that's what Green Bay, Jeff Hafley and Matt LaFleur, this is how they want to play their defense. They want to be able to get home with their front and keep extra defenders in the secondary, not having to bring in a safety for an extra blitzer, not having to create those exotic blitz packages. They want extra defenders back there. Well, if Green Bay can get away with getting pressure with 4-5 and having those extra defenders back there, then yeah, Keyshawn out there and Carrington, I'm fine. I saw a lot of good things from those two last year that I'd feel good about it this year. Maybe not like ecstatic, like, oh yeah, lockdown corner type of thing. But if they had those extra defenders back there with an Evan Williams and a Xavier McKinney helping out in coverage and being ball hawks back there and then constantly bringing the pressure up there, yeah. But that's why this free agency, I think, is going to be key for Goody and the Packers, because what they do in free agency could directly affect their game plan and what they're going to do in the draft or what they should do in the draft. Like, if it were me, I'd rather have them go into free agency and get a pass rusher, get a defensive lineman, and then go get a corner in the draft instead of getting a corner in free agency and then trying to get another defensive lineman in the draft. Because, again, if Green Bay is going to operate under the same assumption, or I should say same assumption, the same way they have over the last how many years, that first-round pick might not be on the field right away, might be just a rotational player at best. Well, I'd rather have that be a corner than a defensive lineman that we're really counting on to help improve the pass rush. You know what I mean? So if they draft that corner, okay, I get it. Kind of working through part of a rotation sort of thing. I can live with that. But if it was a defensive lineman and we didn't do anything in free agency to address the pass rush, and then we're asking, okay, then we're going to go in a draft and we're going to get another guy and it's a little bit of an unknown there, that would make me nervous. And I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't like that. So if I was coming up with a free agency game plan for Goody, if I was advising him, I'd be like, okay, my top priority here with Jaire leaving, let's assume Jaire leaves. My priority is still go get a defensive lineman. Go out on free agency, get a defensive lineman. That's number one. Don't come back until you get one. Just go get one. Get one. After that, okay, then maybe we could talk about a veteran wide out and maybe another corner. But to me, the priority, even if whether Jaire is on the team or not this coming year, is still the priority for me in free agency is still a defensive lineman. Now, worst case scenario for Packers fans, they do nothing in free agency. They miss out on a bunch of guys, or they get a wide receiver, let's say, and they don't address defensive line, and they don't address corner. Now you're into the draft. It's like, oh, crap. Now where do you go? Now you got the debate of like, oh, do we go defensive lineman? Do we go corner? It's probably still defensive lineman at that point. But I don't think I'd be the only Packers fan in the world thinking I'd be like, okay, but how much are we actually going to see him play on the field? If they keep up with that same kind of, mindset they have been for the last few years when it comes to first-round picks. It sucks about Jaire. I like Jaire. I liked him as a player. I did like his swag on the field, if you will. I know it rubbed some fans the wrong way. But I ultimately feel like you have to play with a little swagger. You have to have a little attitude to play corner in this league. You're going up against these wideouts that like to jaw, that like to talk. I don't have a problem with players doing that, with a corner doing that, as long as you back it up. Like one of my like you could throw this as a grind my gears Tuesday. One of the things that just annoys the heck out of me watching a game is like when a corner, like a ball's overthrown or the receiver drops a ball and the corner celebrates like he had anything to do with it. That's annoying. Like I just like I'm just sitting there, I'm like, knock it off. Be quiet. You had nothing to do with that play. You actually got burned, but the quarterback overthrew it or the wide receiver dropped the ball. And you're doing like the incomplete motion or you're stop. In Jaire's case, more times than not, he backed it up with his play. He talked a lot, he danced a lot, he trash talked, but more times than not, he backed it up. But the thing is, he can't stay on the field. Accountability, or not accountability, availability. The A word that I use a lot. Be available. Be out there. I know some injuries you can't prevent. It's fluke stuff. I mean, that PCL injury, that's the definition of a fluke injury. Running in the end zone to break up a pass, and you come up limping, and that's your final play potentially as a Packer player. I know he came back and played a few snaps, but that injury there, just running. I don't know the whole story behind whether the Packers believe he could have played, or maybe Jaire thought he could play, but he couldn't, and so the Packers trying to get him to do certain. I don't know. I bet you there's frustrations on both sides. Goody said it at his presser, but it just stinks. It sucks because premier corners don't always grow on trees. Really good corners don't always grow on trees. It puts the position for the Packers in a little bit of a hole again, where they're going to have to address corner again. I mean, Eric Stokes is going to be gone. That's a former first-round pick. That's out. Jaire's a corner, first-round pick, probably going to be out. It stinks. It sucks. I don't know how else to say it. All right, we'll take a quick break. Get back to some more comments. All that good stuff as we start to wrap up the second hour after these quick words. Need an oil change, some new tires, quality used auto parts that won't break the bank? Get to ASAP Used Auto Parts today. They keep your ride running strong with fast, affordable oil changes, a great selection of new tires, and top quality used parts for any make or model. Whether you're fixing up your daily vehicle or maybe upgrading your ride, they've got what you need at prices that make sense. Don't wait. Stop by ASAP Used Auto Parts today and get back on the road. All right, coming up next hour, excuse me, we'll talk some Badgers with Mr. Cardinal. Badger basketball with a big game tonight, taking on Illinois after their big win, after Wisconsin's big win against Purdue on Saturday. It'll be at the Kohl Center tonight. Badgers are favored in this game, but Illinois has had the Wisconsin Badgers number as of late, so who's going to have the advantage tonight? Talk to RJ about that, including the Badger football teams. Most are. Let me rephrase it. See, I've got a cold, so I apologize. Struggle a little bit here at times. Badger. We'll talk to RJ Cardinal about the new Badger football general manager as well, coming up in the next half hour, 40 minutes or so. I've had a couple people say they'd rather keep Alexander than take the dead cap hit. Here's the thing, like I do too. Like I want Jaire on my team, but the thing is, if Jaire doesn't want to be there, and there's this friction within the locker room, you still want him there? Like if Jaire does not want to be there, or there's some sort of animosity brewing, do you want that in the locker room? Do you want that in that space? I go back to a couple of I think it was Matt Steinman. Maybe it was Ryan Wood. Packer writers, guys who were in the locker room and talking, and one of them made the note like, yeah, these players know that Jaire's not back. So I mean, if Jaire, let's just throw this out there with the quote that the Packers from Rob Demovsky, that multiple team sources privately expressed their frustration with Alexander's inability to stay healthy and or play through injuries. Let's focus on that last part. If Jaire was unwilling to suit up and play when he was cleared to play, you still want that on your team? Do you still want him on your team? Do you still want a part-time player who's $25 million for a cap hit? What say you? If Jaire is 100% in and he's healthy and there's no animosity and there's no friction and all that stuff, I want 2-3 on the field. But if he doesn't want to be there and he's causing a distraction and he's causing a little bit of a rift going through that locker room, get out of here. I don't think this team needs that type of attitude then. I don't want it. I hope that's not the case going on with Jaire. I really hope it's not. But if it is, I don't think it's worth it. I don't even think it's close to being worth it. A couple more texts saying, get rid of 2-3. You just mentioned it. You got to be available, and he has barely played any games for the last couple of years. Anybody saying it's worth it to keep him as a part-time player is out of their minds. Another texter saying, love Jaire, but he's been hurt a lot these last couple of years. You can't count on him to be available on the field. Go get somebody else that is a little bit younger, maybe even a little bit healthier. $6 million is actually a nice little cap space that people don't quite understand how the salary cap works. Use that money towards potentially extending somebody or bringing in another free agent. Another texter coming in saying, I really wish Jaire would stay in Green Bay, but I would totally understand why the Packers would want to move on from him. has barely played any games in the last couple of years, has a huge cap number, top 5 on the team, I believe. You're not getting your value in return. It's a simple business decision. Yeah, he's actually got the 3rd highest cap hit. The only 2 people that are ahead of him are Jordan Love and Rashawn Gary. So, another texter saying, can they restructure his contract? Sure they could, but do you want to kick, restructuring too? Remember, you're kind of kicking some of that money down the line. And is Jaire a guy that you want to restructure where you kick some of that cap hit down the line that you're still going to have to pay for? To me, I don't think Jaire is that type of guy. If he was, like a Josh Jacobs type of player, maybe somebody a little bit younger, and you're not really concerned about any recent injury stuff. Those are the type of players that maybe you kind of kick that can down. I don't want to get into a situation like the Saints where it's just salary cap hell because all they did was just convert, restructure, and kick those money hits down the line more. I don't want to become another Saints team. Another texture coming in. Well, actually, I'll just kind of combine these two because they're pretty much same. Saying, move on from Jaire. Too expensive for a player that barely plays. All right, so it's like as soon as I mentioned, a couple people mentioned keeping Jaire and taking the cap hit. You had a bunch of people come and saying, "What are you guys doing?" No. Where are you at? If you haven't chimed in yet, you can. So, going back to a couple other messages, when we were talking about the Brewers in the first hour, we were talking a little bit about Nestor Cortes. Somebody texted in, and we're talking a little bit about the pitching staff, at least the starters, and kind of how it's very veteran led this year, which I think is kind of flying under the radar a little bit when it comes to the Brewers. But this texter says that I'm definitely interested to see this starting pitching group. They don't have a legit number 1 in my opinion. I know Freddie is the pseudo number 1, but they seem to be a lot of middle rotation guys. Maybe that could be a benefit for this team. I'm curious to see how these veterans can lead some of these younger players. And then another texter had this to say about the Brewers. Another player or another pitcher, or no, see, another texter saying, I'd like the Brewers to get another starting pitcher. I'm still nervous about Brandon Woodruff making a full recovery. And even if he is a part of that starting rotation, can he even go 6 innings? If he's got to be a pitcher that's a piggyback starter, I'd like to see the team get another starter to go with them now, since DL Hall is going to be out for a while. All right. Keep those coming. Keep those Brewers comments coming. Keep those Packers comments coming. We'll get to some more of those coming up a little bit later on. Yeah. Got Grind My Gears, so you could text those. I got a couple that just came through for Grind My Gears, so I'll save those. We'll get to those coming up past the top of the hour. So your final call for some Grind My Gears, your ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears. We'll hit those up. I did see somebody had sent this piece. I think it was on Fansided. Somebody had said, should the Brewers go trade for Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? And there was I did see somebody sent an article. I think it was a fan-sided piece, but somebody made a proposal for the Brewers to go get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And it was after Vladimir and the Blue Jays failed to reach a contract extension. So it'd be a lot. I mean, Vladimir is going to want a new deal, which I don't think the Brewers are going to give him. So I don't think that's going to happen. But Guerrero Jr. saying they had their numbers, I had my numbers. Without a deal in place, it was kind of a pseudo deadline. Guerrero says he plans to cut off talks and play out the season as an impending free agent, saying, I'm here. We didn't get an agreement. Now they're going to have to compete with 29 other teams. So, yeah, Brewers aren't going to do it. Especially considering he wants an extension, it's going to be like a rental player because I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to want a boatload of cash, and let's be real, Brewers are not going to get that for him. I don't know if he could get the 15-year, $765 million deal that Juan Soto got. I kind of doubt it, but yeah, no, it ain't happening. It's fun to think about. It's a what if sort of situation. There's no way an HE double hockey sticks that's going to happen for the Brewers, though. No way. I mean, the only way I could see it happening is, again, you get into the season, it's a trade deadline acquisition like CC Sabathia, and you're literally just renting a player to try to go for it for this year. That's the only way I see that happening for the Brewers. They're not doing it for this year before the season starts. No, I can't see that happening. It would have to be a deadline deal. Kind of similar to when they were rumored to be in on the Manny Machado sweepstakes. That I wouldn't close the door on necessarily. I'm closing the door on to begin the season, though. That door's shut. I'll open it back up when the season starts. And then, if the Brewers are in contention, they're a playoff caliber team, they need another bat, maybe from that side too, play a little first base, then I could see it. But not right now. Not right now. But yeah, I did see the piece. It was a lot of very highly touted prospects from the Brewers potentially in that trade package. All right, what do I got? Oh, I got a couple minutes yet here too. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, hockey-wise, if you've been following the Four Nations, it's kind of been quiet after the USA and Canada game, but we get to see that again. USA versus Canada coming up Thursday night for the championship game. Round 2. Secured a 5-3 win over Finland. That's in the final to play USA on Thursday night. So I don't know if we will get the 3 fights within 9 seconds like we did back on Saturday. In fact, I think right now, I think it might be a little quiet. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of drama to open up that game. But there's going to be high expectations for drama right away because of how Saturday night's game went. But you know what? I'm tuning in because of what happened Saturday. Again, I'm not the biggest hockey fan in the world. But I am definitely tuning in Thursday night at 7 o'clock to see if there's going to be any more drama. It got me to watch it. And I guarantee I'm very curious to see the ratings on that thing. And if they could do the breakdown in ratings like from the beginning and throughout the whole game. Because what happened Saturday with those fights, I guarantee you, there's going to be a ton of people tuning in right away, especially since the fight started right at the beginning. You're going to have a ton of people tuning in to see what happens right at the puck drop within the first minute. And then I think the longer and that's going to be like for just maybe some casual fans or maybe not even hockey fans, but they want to see if there's going to be a fight. And the longer the game goes, and if it's pretty quiet, pretty professional, you're probably going to have people tuning out, regardless if it's a close game or a good game. The hockey people will still stay tuned and such. But it's got me like, okay, marking it down, making sure, set an alarm on my phone, 7 o'clock, puck drops, ESPN, Canada versus USA for the championship. I'm in. I know a lot of you yesterday talked about that game, and I'm curious. Some of you I know are diehard hockey fans, but for those who maybe are just kind of casual like me, like I really like when we get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's what it kind of really kicks in for me, is watching some of those games. And with to one, but going to a hockey game in person is so much better than watching on TV, in my opinion. But like, how many of you are going to tune in when maybe you normally wouldn't, but you're going to tune into this game on Thursday just to see if there's a fight? Just to see if there's some bad blood brewing between these two teams. It's okay to say if like, yeah, I probably normally wouldn't, but I'm going to now. That's me. That's going to be me. I can't wait. All right, we got Grind My Gears coming up past the top of the hour, and then we'll get to some Badger chat with RJ Cardinal from Madison. Lots of hoops talk to get to. We'll talk a little hockey with him. Also, Badger football getting a new general manager. We'll get his thoughts on that. Just how big of a position is this for this football team going forward? Lots to catch up on with him. Quick break. We'll be back for the final hour after these news updates. Final hour, kick it off on this Tuesday morning. A big thanks for tuning in. However you're tuning in, radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, online, sportstalk1051.com. Download the app, take it on a go. Video streams are also up and rolling here this morning. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll catch up with RJ Cardinal. Lots of Badger stuff to talk about with him. Hoops, football, hockey. We'll catch up with him in about, let's say, 15 minutes. We'll get back to some of your messages a little bit later on in the texting line and on the video stream and such. We'll hit those up. Coming up a little bit later on. It's a Grind My Gears Tuesday, though, at ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. And I would just say a lot of you with your Grind My Gears, I'm going to lump you all into one because you're grinding your gears about the weather. So not going to read every individual one because they're all the same. You're grinding about the cold. You're grinding about the weather. So, all right, I'm there with you too, man. But it is Scotty and it is February. So I think we're kind of used to this right now, unless you're not a Wisconsin person or native, and maybe you're not, but yeah, I'm used to it. So all right, what else do we got? Going through some of these other texts for Grind My Gears. We got what's grinding my gears this morning is excuse me. What's grinding my gears this morning is the NBA All-Star Game. It was pathetic with the new format. I'm a big NBA guy, hoops guy, but I did not like the four different teams. Okay, that was from Ben on our texting line. And then we've got another texter here saying what's grinding my gears is the Brewers still not adding another bat this offseason. That was from Matt. What else do we got here? We've got what else do we got here? We've got going through some of this other now I'm getting like some spam emails here or spam texts over here. This one is from Eric. Eric is saying what's grinding my gears is the projections still not giving the Brewers any love. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people this year. Okay, I know we talked about projections last week. A lot of them have them at 500. So, and then another one. What's grinding my gears is the what's grinding my gears is the NBA players like LeBron James. I thought it was a huge selfish move on his part to back out of the All-Star game just a couple of hours before tip-off. He took away a potential spot for somebody else that easily would have played in the game. That one is from Chris on our texting line. That was kind of weird, wasn't it? I know a lot of people on social media were going after LeBron for that. Because he revealed it, I think, at a presser, right, where he was asked, what should we expect or what do you have in store for the All-Star game? And he said, yeah, I'm not going to be playing. And it was just like a couple hours before the game started. And I didn't even know about it till we were watching the, intros and he comes out, in street clothes. I'm like, wait a minute, what? He's not playing. And wasn't even suited up. Like Giannis wasn't playing, but Giannis was suited up, in the warm-ups and the jerseys at least, right? So kudos to Giannis there. LeBron, no. But yeah, I mean, he had to have known for a while he wasn't playing, right? I mean, he had to have known. Had to. But yeah, a lot of people went after LeBron for waiting that long to make a decision. And we'll do one more before I do my grind my gears. Excuse me. This was from Greg. Greg says, what's grinding my gears every time I want to watch the Daytona 500, it feels like it gets rain delayed, and then I got to wait longer and longer and longer. It's the only race that I watch during the season, and weather delays always screw up my timing. All right, so those are just some of our listeners with their Grind My Gears Tuesday. What's grinding my gears? It's simple. I'm struggling to talk a little bit because I got another cold here. Maybe that's why when you live with a kid that goes to school, it's just a petri dish full of germs and such. So If I sound weird, I sound like I'm choking up, I apologize, but it's definitely grinding my gears here. So I'm just going to go simple, straight up. That's grinding my gears is germs. Germs all over the place. All right, we got going back to the Jaire. We got a few people chiming in about Jaire. Scott says on the video stream, "I love Jaire, but the game he went out, he didn't even have his shoes tied. You get paid millions, and you can't even be bothered to tie your shoes. Come on, man." Another texter said Javier is too. I think that's Jaire. I think that's supposed to be Jaire is too small to wrap up. Continues to lead with the shoulders, so will continue to be injured. Another texter says, "Love Jaire. I wish he'd be back for Green Bay. I don't understand why a lot of people didn't like him over the years, but totally understand why he won't be back for Green Bay because you have to factor in his injuries and for what he is getting paid." That's from Jim on our texting line. Another texter, don't have a name, says Jaire has been a fantastic player for the Packers when he has been healthy. He is still one of the top corners in the league, and I think he has been unfairly ridiculed by Packers fans over the years. But you have to be available to play, and he has not been available to play, and he is getting paid a lot of money to go play. It's just time for both the Packers and Jaire to move on. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be the case. I feel like that is going to be the case moving. They could do it now. I don't think Green Bay is in a rush to do it right now. They have cap space available. I know that's going to be a question like a lot of people are going to have. Be like, why don't you just do it now? There really isn't a big rush. Is it unfair to the player? You could probably make that argument. Are they maybe trying to find a trade partner? Maybe. I think at this point, if Green Bay is dead set on wanting to move on from Jaire, if they're dead set on that, I think if you get a pick, it might only be a 6th or 7th round pick, you take it. Other teams know. They know more than what we do. They know that whether Green Bay is going to keep him or not. They've got those contacts and communications. So if Green Bay does trade him for a 6th or 7th round pick, I'm sure there'll be some fans that'll be upset about the value that they got in return. But at the same time, it's like, if teams know you're going to release him, if they know you're going to release him, they're not going to give you a whole lot of money in return or a whole lot of compensation in return. So you gotta play that game a little bit. I've heard it. Somebody asked, "Is it still the same cap hit if you trade the players?" It is still the same dead cap hit, about $19 million. Yeah, it'd still be the same dead cap hit. Somebody said trade him to the Browns for Myles Garrett. Well, that'd be cool if they could, but the Browns don't really need a corner. They already got Denzel Ward, who they're paying a lot of money. They drafted Greg Newsome. So I mean, they're pretty set at corner right now. So I know it's easy to say to trade him to go get Myles Garrett. I wish they could. Sure, why not? I wish they could, but when you look at it from that perspective from the Browns, do they need him? Probably not. And I think if you're the Browns, I think you got to look at it from this aspect too. If you're the Browns and you're going to trade Myles Garrett, you might as well just start all over. Start over at the quarterback position. You trade away your best player, Myles Garrett. You might as well just start all over. So they probably don't want to bring in a high-priced player at already a position that they've got a couple of starters at. So you got to look at it from that perspective too. It looks great that would be a home run trade for Green Bay in a heartbeat. But Cleveland's a team. Cleveland probably doesn't want to do that. They don't want to probably do that. when it comes to excuse me, when it comes to the Jaire one, let's say if they trade him. Okay, so right now they've got let's use spot track numbers. $44.5 million in cap space. Okay, we've been talking about dead caps. Okay. If Green Bay traded him for a pick, okay, you're getting $6 million in relief. The same as you would if you released him pre-June 1st designation. However, if Green Bay elects to release him with a post-June 1st designation, they actually would get more in cap space this year than they would by trading him and getting a late pick. So what's more beneficial? Is it trading Jaire and maybe getting a 6th round pick? 5th round pick, whatever. Let's call it a day 3 pick, okay? Rounds 4 through 7. If they get a day 2 pick, I think you run to the table and you take that. But let's just say it's a day 3 pick, okay? So you trade him, but you take that $19 million in dead cap hit right away for this year. You still create about $6 million in cap space. Is that better than releasing Jaire and doing a post-June 1st designation where then you get a few more $1 million available in cap space for this year? Instead of $19 million in dead cap space for this year, you'd have about $8.4 million in dead cap space. So which one would you rather have? A pick, a day 3 pick, and $6 million in cap space? No pick, and about $11 million in cap space for this year. The other benefit to this, or the other side to this too, is if you trade them and you take the $19 million in dead cap hit this year, you would not have a dead cap hit for 2026. But if you do the post June 1st, yes, it's only about an $8.4 million dead cap hit this year, but the following year, it's going to be about $11 million. And then on the other flip side of that is like, well, the salary cap will be bigger that year too. See, it's pick your poison. Which one would you rather have? And that's what Green Bay has to decide. A lot of people saying give the extra space. Only one person saying day 3 pick, but it looks like 5 of you saying give me the extra cap space. All right, so that's where the majority's going. All right, we'll take a quick break. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, and we'll talk some Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal. He's coming up next.
app. We thought of you, all of you. Take Sierra. As a visual learner, she uses Babbel's wordplay videos.
Today I'll share a quick lesson on shopping in French.
Merci beaucoup. Keith is a be in the room with real people kind of learner, so he loves the live online classes with our language experts.
Okay, class. ¿Vos está pronto?
Estamos prontos.
However you learn, Babbel makes it easy. Try Babbel for free at babbel.com. BABBEL.com.
Stay a cut above the competition with business internet that was built to help you thrive. Get 500 meg fiber internet from TDS for just $49.99 a month. There's no contract or bundle required. Our 100% fiber network delivers 99.9% network reliability. With less downtime, you'll have more time to focus on making your customers smile. Plus, it comes with a 60-day satisfaction guarantee. So why wait? Get sheer magic business internet from TDS. Internet speeds are up to and not guaranteed. Subject to availability. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Today's job market is full of demand for skilled trade workers. Electricians, welders, mechanics, these and other trades are the backbone of every community. They're also a huge part in making sure the Army National Guard is always fulfilling its mission of service to our country and communities. Soldiers train to keep the power flowing, engines running, and supplies moving. The skilled trades these soldiers perform are the same ones needed in today's civilian workforce. Army National Guard soldiers are on the fast track to learning skills that can set them up for success at home with companies looking to hire the best. With options from plumber to helicopter mechanic and everything in between, soldiers are able to select the trades that best fit their lives. Their resumes are being built through their paid training and part-time service. Find out how you too can learn a trade profession and serve your community and country by visiting NationalGuard.com. Sponsored by the Wisconsin Army National Guard. Aired by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
He's smart, informed, entertaining, and he knows his sports. In other words, he's the kind of guy I'd like to settle down with in a small, cozy cabin in the woods. That is, if he was a woman with a case of cold ones. The Dan Kasper Show, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
Coming off their big win Saturday against Purdue, the Badger men's basketball team will be back at it tonight, going up against Illinois. It's the first of 3 straight games at the Kohl Center for the newly ranked number 11 Wisconsin Badgers, the highest ranked Big Ten team right now in the latest polls. So let's break it down and talk all things Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal himself. RJ, Saturday's game against Purdue, I mean, how shocked were you with the result of that and how the Badgers played, maybe especially in the second half of that game?
Yeah, I mean, what we talked about with the offense that the Badgers were possessing and having the past couple of games, just the ability to knock down shots. As we talked last week, I said if that continues, you can pull off a win in Mackey Arena. Then you go ahead and shoot 72% from the field in the second half when you went 20 of 22 from inside the paint. So I mean, absolutely, this team has the offense that has the capability of beating good teams. We just haven't seen it in previous attempts before. That first win against the team with a winning record in the Big Ten against Northwestern a couple weeks ago. And now hopefully you can shake off that kind of win. Shake it off, like that's a bad thing, but I mean, move forward and now try to break a streak of 9 losses in a row to Illinois. So you'd love to see that kind of game out of the Badgers over the weekend. But I mean, the way this season is set up now, be happy about that win, move past that win, and move on to the next game to try. It sounds bad to say it like that, but you have to look at it and move forward and not dwell on that game because I mean, it was a 5th win in the 58 years of Mackey Arena being around.
Yeah.
And I think the first win since Johnny Davis dropped 30 plus points on him. a couple of years ago now. So, yeah, I mean, amazing win. Kamari McGee should not have been ejected. It should have stayed as a moving screen. I can't understand how you can intentionally punch somebody in the groin when you're not even looking at it and actively leaning to try to avoid a person, but he sticks his leg out in front of you. Whatever. But what that did was light a fire under the butts of the rest of the team, and it really showed, especially in the second half, when you put up 58 points, 72%, and your team is still looking pretty darn good right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know, looking at this team with the Badgers, the question I was kind of throwing out there yesterday, and I'm a believer too that a lot is based off matchups and seedings. And I know Joel already has the Badgers as a 3 seed in the tournament right now, but just talent wise and what the Badgers have, do you think this is a team that has enough talent, is a Sweet 16 or higher caliber team right now?
I mean, you have a team right now that can go 8 deep. I mean, I think we've seen Jack Janicki definitely make his presence known when he's had his chances. And I mean, Xavier Amos, he's a transfer you can kind of forget about.
Mm-hmm.
But he's doing all right too when he gets his minutes. He's not getting as many as the other guys in the rotation, but you're going 8 deep. You're not really losing anything when you take some of those guys off. Maybe, I mean, I guess you'd probably say when the John Tonje or John Blackwell come off, but I mean, it's not like they're spending long periods of time off the court at the same time. But this team, I think, has the ability to make it to that second weekend. Something that we haven't seen from the Badgers in quite some time now. So, and all that needs to happen is this offense just needs to not have a cold night. And if it does, much like the Iowa game, that defense needs to clamp down and show that it has that capability. I mean, the last few teams that have won the national championship, aside from one, have had like top 10 offense and top 20 defense. And I mean, I think right now Wisconsin is the only team in the country to fit that bill. Now, that's not saying it's an automatic guarantee they're getting all the way to the national championship game, but it's a pretty comfy and nice stat to read when you're looking at the possible tournament matchups as you're moving forward. And you're getting a team that, you know, I mean, you can watch all the film you want. You're still going to think of Wisconsin as being Wisconsin, not this Wisconsin, you know. And it seems every game somebody's showing that this team is deeper than we think.
Yeah. So rematch against Illinois tonight at the Kohl Center. Again, Illinois, that's kind of had the Badgers number. But when we look back at that, the first time this season these two teams played and Illinois won 86-80, one of the things that jumps out to me, RJ, in that game, Stephen Crowell not getting a single rebound in that game. Is he the wild card in this game for the Badgers to come away with a W? I mean, this is a guy I feel like every year we've talked about consistency with him, and it just hasn't been there throughout his career.
Yeah, only 18 minutes in that game, and I think Nolan Winter took some of that time from him because Winter ended up with 7 rebounds. But that's another one. You lose on the road in another place where you've had a hard time winning, and it was only by 6 points. So it's not like some of these other times against Illinois where it just looks like you've been outclassed. It's one of those games where you actually didn't have a great night at the free throw line. But still, there were glimmers of hope in there, and you only lost by 6. And then Greg Gard called out Stephen Crowell, and Crowell's been playing much better since then. And I think Illinois just had one of their big men who's out indefinitely with a broken wrist.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, when there's not a guy the size of Steven Crowell out there. He tends to have better games. And I know they have another big guy who's actually more of had a bigger presence in that game against Wisconsin. So he'll still be on the court. But still, I think it's one of those where we're going to hopefully still see a Wisconsin team that has the capability to have the same amount of firepower as Illinois does. And it should be another good game. And regardless of the outcome, unless it's, a bad performance by the Badgers, you still won't have a shaken confidence depending on the result if it's a close game.
So I'll just kind of just straight up ask you, with only about half dozen games or so left in the regular season here, the Badgers are the highest ranked Big Ten team, although it's by one, because then you got a stretch of teams behind them. They're not in the top spot in the conference standings. That's still Michigan. But given what we've seen right now, is it true or false, Wisconsin, in your opinion, right now at this point in time, February 18th, is the best Big Ten basketball team?
By the look of it, yes. All the paper statistics, all the eye test looks like they are, and that's kind of what people are going on, especially when you got AP writers putting him at 11. They're not necessarily. I mean, nobody's really watching all the games anymore. So even though it's their job, it doesn't happen that way. There's too many games to watch, and it's the perception of people seeing the statistics that show Wisconsin is not the Wisconsin they thought Wisconsin will be. So yeah, are they the best team in the Big Ten? I don't know. They're still 2 games back of Michigan, and they lost to Michigan. But when you look at Michigan on paper, like some of these voters do, they see a low Ken Pom rating. They see a low net ranking. They see the quad wins and losses and all that. And I think on paper, definitely Wisconsin looks better than them. And when they're having a streak like they are, it's more of a what are you doing for me now poll than anything really.
Switching over to football here, RJ, I wanted to get your thoughts quick on the new general manager, Marcus Edbury, getting promoted, which I think was probably the thought was going to happen. But what do you know about Marcus?
He's been with the program since 2022, so he's not in this aspect, but he's kind of been roster management and kind of there for the coaching change as well. So it's one of those. It already sounds like what the term of GM for like pro football.
Yeah,
kind of sounds like that already. So I'm not sure what'll change. I don't know if we'll see him being the big rah-rah guy that Max was. And it'll still, and this is something that looks like we need to know what the definition of the role is for the Badgers. He's been a front office kind of guy. So if that's what the route the Badgers are taking, like we were talking last week, a lot of other schools are bringing in football alumni with at least big names that people recognize. And it's one of those where it looks like the Badgers are taking more of the business side approach. So it'll be interesting to see what they're actually looking forward to this role being in terms of Sedbury being the one to be named. So still, yeah, it's not clear what this is because, he's moving out of the athletic department of being the chief operating officer there. So it'll be, roster management, player personnel and operations. So, that sounds a lot less like what we saw in, the videos on signing day and things like that of wearing tuxedos and being so happy when somebody signs.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think this is becoming more of a front office signing rather than in like the kind of figurehead, look at me kind of thing, and somebody else is actually doing the GM work.
Mm-hmm. I was looking at his background a little bit. I mean, he was with the Eagles for a little bit, the Philadelphia Eagles, director of player engagement, and then he came over from Baylor, right? I think is where he was before.
Yeah. So I mean, he served in an administrative role there and was like a liaison with the football programs. Also was at Arkansas, Central Florida. So he oversaw the coaching transition and roster management. Honestly, no clue what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of being in the athletic office and overseeing the coaching transition, which makes me think he was part of the coaching search. And I don't then get how that turns into roster management unless with working with the football team, he was also kind of working with Varsity Collective and other NIL opportunities for players, which kind of makes it seem like what it is to me. So, I mean, that actually sounds more like a GM role already, just not with the football team, than what Max was doing with the football team.
Switching over to hockey here for just a couple minutes, RJ. So, I mean, this is the final weekend for the women's team, right? Coming up here against men.
Yep.
Okay, so for both here, so women's going up against Bemidji State. I mean, they kind of control their. Or what was that?
I lied. Apparently, there's a exhibition against the under 18 U.S. hockey team coming up March 2nd. So,
okay.
Yeah, just found out.
Let's start with the men's team because they're at the Kohl Center against Notre Dame here. What's at stake for these two games for this Badger men's hockey team?
Well, a rematch against Ohio State or a rematch against Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. It's like I'd much rather face Michigan again. Wisconsin has had some tough battles with them, and I think has a better chance of making it out of the first round of the Big Ten if they go to Ann Arbor and face Michigan. Right now, Ohio State is streaking. They're tied for second in the conference with Minnesota in points right now. And yeah, or Michigan State. I forget which one's first and which one's second, but I'd much rather face Michigan again. So, I mean, you have to really take it to Notre Dame this weekend and get a sweep on the final Big Ten series for you. Because, I mean, you've had a 6-game streak of 2 or less goals now. And that's no way to win games, especially when goaltending isn't the hottest during that streak either. It's like the whole team has just had a letdown here in the last 3 weekends. So, yeah, you need to come out, get a sweep against Notre Dame, who only has 3 conference wins on the year. I can't remember the first go around. Did they get one of those against us? Yeah, they did. Okay. So, yeah, you just have to get that sweep and hope Penn State doesn't get many points because they're 2 points ahead of you right now in the standings. You want to be in that spot so you can face Michigan rather than traveling to Columbus and facing a really hot Ohio State team right now. Or then again Minnesota, because I think they are in second. Both times playing Minnesota, you didn't look really great. So yeah, just basically 2 wins and go play Michigan.
Interesting. And then on the women's side, I mean, they got one more. We've talked about them at length, with just how dominant they have been so far. Is there anything at stake for this final weekend of the regular season for them?
No. I mean, maybe staying at number 1, because, I mean, you can't go losing to Bemidji
Mm-hmm.
and expect to stay where you are. But, they had the last weekend off. They clinched the WC 2 weekends ago when Minnesota came to town and you beat them 8-2 and 6-1. So, I mean, yeah, just after you had some rest of the legs, go take it to Bemidji, keep that number 1 overall ranking, and yeah, we'll look forward to the WCHA tournament and pushing that towards the NCAA.
Interesting. And how about you personally, wrestling, man? Let's get an update. How's everything going with wrestling?
Well, we have a total of 3 sectional qualifiers. Two of our girls made it and will be wrestling in Prairie du Chien Friday night. And then our 106 pounder with boys team ended up qualifying for sectionals. We had a couple of tough beats in 4-5 matchups at regionals with some of our other guys who wrestled back for 5th place. But since they lost to the wrestler who took 4th, they didn't get the chance to wrestle for that final sectional spot. So we had 3 guys sitting on the outside looking in without a chance to make it to sectionals after their first round loss. So we're on the cusp, but only had 1 make it. But overall, 3 wrestlers sectional qualifiers this year. So yeah, looking forward to Friday and Saturday, and we'll see how that goes. I think looking at the brackets, there's some tough matchups there, so it'll be an exceptional day if we get somebody through to state. But I mean, crazy things have happened. So yeah, it'll be a fun weekend on the wrestling side of things, and yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, good stuff as always, Art. Okay, before I let you go, who you got, Wisconsin or Illinois tonight?
I mean, gotta go Wisconsin.
Yeah, you feeling pretty confident with the game tonight?
It's still one of those, you lost to Illinois 9 going into that game in Mackey Arena. If this offensive firepower continues, I mean, it's going to be pretty tough to like keep pace with Wisconsin. I mean, even 10 points in a win in Mackey Arena. Illinois still does have the scoring ability, so I think it'll be a close game still, like it was down in Champaign. But as long as, I mean, and not 72% in a half, you know, but like as long as Wisconsin's still making the clip at shooting and getting to that line, definitely you can't go wrong with picking Wisconsin, who I think I saw the line went up to 4.5 now. So with the announcement of the injury there, but yeah, so I'll pick Wisconsin. It's a cautious pick. But still, like I said, I mean, the way this offense is humming, like it's hard to pick against them.
Yeah, I agree. All right, RJ, we appreciate the time as always, buddy. Enjoy the rest of the week and stay warm, and we'll catch up with you again next week, sir.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you then.
You got it. RJ Cardinal joining us for a little bit here this morning, talking some Badgers. We got to take a quick break, and we'll have some picks and predicts coming up after these quick words. Actually have a good slate of some college basketball games coming up here. We'll make those picks and predicts for tonight's games coming up here in just a sec. A little earlier, Charles said Cleveland could trade one of their corners for a higher pick, maybe a 2 or 3. Packers give up 2 1s, Jaire and Inagbari, perhaps. Cannot let the Lions get him. Well, I mean, we also got to so it's remember when we do trades, it's not just we still got to factor in what dead cap money is affected with this. And if the Packers, so first of all, one of those 2 corners, the only one that they would be able to trade without any financial ramifications would be Greg Newsome, who's still on a rookie deal. They can't if they trade Denzel Ward, they're taking a big dead cap hit. So we got to remember this too. Cleveland's already $27 million in negative $27 million in dead cap space. So if they were to trade Denzel Ward, that increases. And if they do trade Myles Garrett, that dead cap increases as well. So just because that they're going to be trading a couple of high-priced players doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get out of salary cap hell. And that's something that, they're going to factor in, that they've got to factor. That's why a lot of people are saying a Myles Garrett trade is going to be difficult to pull off, because you look at the dead cap hits and you look at all these financial ramifications. So while that sounds great for Green Bay, I think if Cleveland agreed to that type of trade, you run to the podium, you run to the phone or fax machine, however they do it, and you turn that thing in. But Cleveland's got to look at it from their side too, and like, okay, we just doubled it in that scenario. If they were to trade like Ward and Garrett, in that scenario, you almost double your negative dead cap space. So I don't see how that. You can do other stuff to try to get underneath the salary cap. There's no question you can do that. But if it were me running the Browns and I've got a horrible quarterback situation with a quarterback that's not going to play this year, and he was already awful anyways, and he's taken a massive amount of cap space, if I'm going to trade my best player, I might as well just say screw it and scrap everything and try to reset everything. But that's the other thing when we throw out these trade ideas, it's easy to do like pick swaps or player swaps and that, but they got to look at the dead cap and the contract situations and the cap hits for these players. It's a unique thing, and I know it's kind of, that's why I always look at over the cap or spot track to see, okay, how much is that going to actually, can it financially work out? All right, let's do some picks and predicts here, brought to you by the Elbow Room located in Eau Claire. Again, if you want to beat the cold and you want to warm up but have a cold beverage while watching some hoops, well, tonight might be a good night because we got some good college games outside of the Wisconsin and Illinois one. So let's pick some of these games here. Duke beat Virginia last night, so that is not for tonight. We got UConn, Villanova visiting UConn. I'll go with UConn tonight. Texas A&M visiting Mississippi State. Texas A&M coming in at number 7. Mississippi State's coming in at 21. Mississippi State is favored by 2.5, but I'm going to go with the Aggies and Buzz Williams over there. So I'll go with Texas A&M. Purdue versus Michigan State. Number 13, Purdue. Number 14, Michigan State. If Wisconsin wins tonight, regardless of the result of this game, will help them climb the standings here. Michigan State's in second. They're a game behind Michigan for the top. Purdue's 1.5 back. Wisconsin's a half game back from Purdue, 1 game back from Michigan State for second, 2 back from the top spot. Anyways, can Purdue lose 3 in a row? Can they lose 3 in a row? I'm going to go Purdue. I'm going to go Purdue tonight. I know it's on the road at Michigan State, but 3 in a row, I don't know. I'm going to go Purdue. Let's got Texas Tech versus TCU. I'll go Texas Tech. Colorado at Iowa State. Iowa State. I'll go Iowa State. Seton Hall at Marquette. Marquette's favored by 17.5 in this one. I'm going to go Marquette, but I don't think they cover. Some of their games have been pretty darn close. Kansas 23 visiting BYU, but BYU is favored in this game by 3.5. I will go Kansas, though. Gophers taking on UCLA in UCLA. I'll go with the Bruins. And then finally, we've got Illinois visiting Wisconsin. Wisconsin at this point in time is favored by 4.5 was the last I saw. 3.5 on this one, 4.5. I've seen both. I will go Wisconsin tonight. I'll go with Wisconsin. All right, those are your picks and predicts. Again, brought to you by the Elbow Room. All right, a big thanks to everybody who chimed in, texted in, tweeted in, commented on the video streams and such. Big thanks for that. Big thanks for RJ for joining us and talking all things Badgers with us this morning. Kind of recapping what we all chatted about. We chatted some Brewers. Nestor Cortes, I feel like he's the guy, or he's one of the guys that maybe kind of flying under the radar a little bit this year. What should we expect? What should the expectation be for Nestor Cortes? I think he's in a unique spot because if the Brewers are in a position when it comes to the trade deadline and it's like kind of showing they're not a playoff team, I think Cortes could be a very viable trade candidate because it's a one and done, I think, for Cortes. He's only got 1 year left unless something happens, but I feel like he's kind of a one and done for the Brewers. So he's interesting in the fact that, okay, we got a veteran starter that could help us get back to the postseason, but if the Brewers are not in kind of postseason contention when we get to the trade deadline, he might be a guy that they could easily move to a contending team and get something in return there. But haven't really talked a whole lot about Nestor Cortes this offseason and as we get set to spring training. So we did a little bit of that in the first hour. Talked a little obviously the big one that generated a lot of talk, which usually does when it's a Green Bay thing, but the whole Jaire Alexander, will he be back? Won't he be back? Sounds like he's going to be gone. Will it be a trade? Will it be, free agency, that sort of thing? So that's definitely going to be probably a topic of discussion up until, free agency in the entire offseason and the draft. But today teams can start to place franchise tags or transition tags on players. And for any Packers fan that was hoping for maybe T. Higgins, you might have to go towards somebody else because now this is just rumors and rumblings, but this was from Sports Illustrated that Cincinnati planned to put the non-exclusive tag on Higgins. This would give the team and the player until July 15th to negotiate a long-term deal. And if no deal is reached, Higgins would play on a salary of $26.17 million for this year. Last year, under the franchise tag, he played for $21.8 million. And a second tag in this case triggers a 20% increase of the previous payout. So it sounds like the Bengals are trying to lock up their big three of, you got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson. A lot of money invested in those three guys. So, and I believe the non-exclusive, let me double check, but I believe non-exclusive tag. So the non-exclusive tag for an NFL means that this tag allows the player. Yeah, okay. The tag allows the player to sign an offer sheet with another team. So even though the Packers did this with was it Fuller from the Bears, the corner, and Goody's first year? Remember, they signed him to an offer sheet, then the Bears essentially matched it. But that told you the Packers were willing to send them some compensation. Believe that was the non-exclusive tag. But the non-exclusive tag allows a player to sign an offer sheet with another team. The original team has the right to match the offer or receive 2 first-round draft picks in compensation for the player. It's obviously the most common tag out there. Exclusive tag, the tag completely binds the player to his team, and you can't negotiate with another team. So if you really want T. Higgins, it sounds like you're going to have to give up. First of all, give him a really big deal offer that you don't think Cincinnati would try to offer, and then be willing to send over 2 first-round picks for T. Higgins. You willing to do that? I don't think I'm willing to do that. All right. Tomorrow, hopefully we're talking about a Badger win against Illinois and climbing up in the standings of the Big Ten Conference. We'll hit that up. Stock reports are also due tomorrow, so think about that for a little bit. And send those on over tomorrow. Stay warm, peeps. Have a good rest of your day. We'll do this again tomorrow, same time, same place, just past 6 a.m. We'll talk to you then.